It's another Free League game! Yay! Right? This is a review of the Walking Dead RPG starter set. Let's dive in. So here we have the box for the Walking Dead universe role-playing starter set. And I have to start off by saying that this box is a little bit too small for the components. Like, I don't know what it is, but the character sheets that you find inside are just like a hair too big. Or maybe that's just the order that I'm putting them in, but oh well. The back says, this is the starter set for the official The Walking Dead universe role-playing game. In this game, you will play as people struggling to survive in an unforgiving world. Exceptional challenges can appear from anywhere, from the lack of essential supplies, from conflicts brewing within the group, from hidden construction flaws in your safe haven, or from approaching walkers hungering for your flesh. That pretty much says a whole lot, and I should go ahead and point out that there's going to be a bit of a content warning for this video and the actual full review. This is for mature audiences only, obviously. So, let's take a look and see what the components are for this box set. So, the starter set comes with 20 dice in total. You're going to have 10 normal dice that you'll use for your everyday skill rolls, and then you'll have 10 stress dice for when you accrue stress. There's a threat meter tracker. We have a big double-sided map of Georgia, and it's actually really cool. There's two different maps. You actually have two different areas that you can explore there. You have 3 location maps, and these are one-sided. This is for the Wolf's Den scenario that you can play through. There are 6 character sheets for the Wolf's Den survival mode scenario. So one of them is an NPC, but the other 5 are for player characters. And I should point out that they don't actually have pictures on the character sheets, but I think that's because you can play these characters as male or female or whatever you want. Then you have the 4 character sheets from the Walking Dead TV show, which is actually pretty cool. They're not really used in the scenario itself, but it is pretty cool that you can have it and you can use it for whatever adventure that you want. You have the rules booklet, and then the Wolf's Den survival mode scenario booklet. So let's go ahead and take a look at the rules booklet. Compared to the core rulebook, this rule booklet has all the rules that you need to actually play the game. It's kind of along the lines of the Alien starter set and the Blade Runner starter set, where I'm assuming that if you have like this rule booklet, then you really don't need to get the core rule book if there are further adventures or anything like that. And Alien was really cool about that. The 3 adventures that they did publish, they had everything that you need in terms of gear written in the actual adventure book itself, and you could just use the rules booklet from the starter set for rulings and things like that. There's nothing really missing between the two, is what I'm trying to get at. So it is missing a character creation, the world building, and lore info, but again, that's kind of extra. You'll be fine just using the rule booklet if you want to expand your game, as long as you're using pre-made characters, that is. So as I've already stated, this book is all about the rulings. So how to roll for skills and how combat works is all going to be included. And if you've ever played any of Free League's Year Zero engine games, then this is going to be very familiar. I think some things are simpler, example combat, but everything else feels very, very familiar. Characters have access to 4 attributes: strength, agility, wits, and empathy. Each attribute has 3 skills associated with it. Close combat, endure, force are strengths skills. We have mobility, range, combat, and stealth, which are agility skills. Scout, survival, and tech, which are wit skills. And then we have leadership, manipulation, and medicine, which are empathy skills. When you want to make a skill test, you're going to take the attribute number and the skill number, add them together, and that's how many d6s you're going to roll. 6s are successes, and extra successes usually provide extra benefits, like doing extra damage during combat. In addition, you can push your rolls, which is kind of a staple in some of these free league games, and I'm glad that it's making a comeback here. When you do push a roll, that means you re-roll any dice that did not come up as a success. Now, when you do this, you get 1 stress point, and that means you're also going to roll that stress die for this new roll. Rolling a 1 on the stress die is called messing up. Actually, it's not called that, but you do mess up when you roll a 1 on the stress die. This means that the threat level can go up and or other things can happen. For example, you can alert the swarm by making noise, which raises the threat level 1 step. You fail to notice a couple of walkers who close in on you, which is a single attack. You can run out of bullets, gas, spare parts, or other resources. You can offend someone. That's always a fun one. You can hurt yourself, break something important, get lost, or lose your hostage. One major change to the engine this game was built around is health points. No longer does your strength determine how much health your character has. Instead, every character has 3 health. So, for example, if you have 3 health, you're unharmed, 2 is bruised, 1 is battered, and 0 is broken. And when you're broken, you do get critical injuries, just like in a lot of the other free league games. I absolutely hate this, and it really baffles me why they went with something this simple. Every other game has strength tied to health, and yes, some characters will have a minimum of 2 health, and some can have upwards of 5 health, but it kind of also makes sense that some characters are going to be more sturdier than others. Anchors are also sort of new. The concept is not new, having NPCs that you have a relationship with, but there's actually a mechanic now tied to that. An anchor is simply an important person to your character. PCs start off with 2. One must be another PC, and the other is an NPC that they create. You can use your anchor to relieve stress, which makes sense and encourages role-playing. Anchors also help with fear checks by giving a +2 bonus for every anchor still alive. And yes, your anchors can most definitely die. Combat is another one of those things that has changed quite drastically. We have duels, which are between 2 or a few combatants, and then we have brawls for larger battles. Duels are simple. You make an opposed combat roll, ranged combat or close combat, and whoever has the most successes deals their weapon damage to the other. Okay? Brawls are for larger battles and is divided into 6 phases. You have taking cover, ranged combat, close combat, movement, first aid, and other. The GM calls out each phase, and then all NPCs and PCs that want to perform their action in that phase declare it. It should be worth mentioning that if 2 people are attacking other, then it's just simply a duel. You just roll your opposed combat check and bada beam, bada boom. Once again, I hate absolutely everything about this. The Year Zero engine already had interesting combat mechanics. It seems like they are just simplifying things just because. As much as I dislike drawing cards as initiative, I would much have preferred that to dividing combat into phases. Also, combat this time around is less tactical because you're limited to about 6 different actions. If I'm going to commit to playing this game, I'm just going to integrate alien combat mechanics and just be done with it. If you are reduced to 0 health, you are considered broken and you can only simply crawl. You also take a critical injury, which is one of my favorite aspects of the Year Zero engine. And on the flip side, I kind of really wish that mental injuries made a return, and honestly, it would have made such a great fit for this type of a game. Instead, we got the fear checks. And so basically, at the end of a session, the GM is going to ask the players a series of questions, and if they come up as yes, they make a fear roll, which is just a straight up roll, but you do get a +2 bonus for every anchor still alive. There are some bad things that do happen if you fail this test, but it doesn't quite beat going, batshit crazy because you are now mentally unstable. Last, you can't have the Walking Dead property and not include mechanics for the actual Walking Dead. Now we have something called the level threat. Each time a PC messes up, the threat can go up which introduces walkers into the area. There is always a swarm somewhere on the map that can move around and cause complications. I do like the table for walker attacks, but that only happens when you fail a roll to avoid a walker. By the way, there are all manner of times when a walker will just come out and straight up deal 1 damage for messing up on failed rolls. So there is that, and I don't really care for that as well. Surprisingly enough, the last section in the rule booklet is for the GM, and it's about running the game and some advice on that. And I think this might be the first time that I've actually seen one of these in a starter set. I don't know. I actually have to go back and look at that. But it is very interesting to see that that there's actually tips for the GM here. Next, we have the Wolf's Den booklet. This is a survival mode scenario for the starter set. If I had to describe it, I'd say that it's more of a point crawl scenario. The PCs go from one location to the next, although there are some different possibilities if they do not act quickly enough. You see, the PCs are part of a haven. In fact, one of the PCs that you can play as is the leader of said haven. 2 of the settlers, Matthew Green and Rebecca Lee, eloped after the leader discovered that they were having an affair. By the way, Rebecca Lee is supposed to be with the said leader in the first place. So, yeah, drama. The beginning of the scenario begins with the PCs finding the tent that the 2 stayed in under a bridge, but the truck and all of the supplies that they stole are missing. All signs kind of point to them being kidnapped. Ravenhill is an abandoned town that the PCs will come across next. There is an NPC who defected from the Wolves gang and is hiding in town. She will try to steal from the PCs if given the chance, but the PCs can also use her to get to the next destination, which is Evergreen. Evergreen is the settlement that's been overrun by members of the Wolves, a gang of people who sow chaos in the area by barging into settlements and killing everything in sight. The real task is to sneak into the settlement and find Matthew Green and Rebecca Lee. They are holed up in the barn with other prisoners who are used to fight walkers like some sort of a gladiatorial arena. The scenario ends when you get to this point. The PCs can either be taken prisoner, they can die, or escape with Matthew and Rebecca. There really isn't a whole lot here, but a few encounters. And I think this could have been fleshed out a little bit more, but then again, it's a starting adventure, so I also understand the need for brevity. This would be a very good one-shot for introducing players into this type of a game, or like the Year Zero engine in general. To be honest, there really isn't a whole lot of value in this box. Yes, you do get dice, which is really cool, and in fact, that's probably the most valuable thing in the box itself. The rules are about what you'd expect to get from the actual core rulebook. There really isn't a whole lot to the scenario itself, but it could be used as a one-shot as written if you really want it to be. At this point, if you're really interested in the Walking Dead RPG, then it's probably best to go with the core rulebook. It has all of the rules, the lore and the setting and character creation and all of that, and you'd only pay a little bit more for it as opposed to just getting the starter set. So there is that. That's gonna do it for this video. Feel free to leave a comment down below. Give this video a huge thumbs up to support this series, and I will see you guys in the next video.